Is our bad sex life by design?
Yes. Everything about our intimate lives is commodified. I think that there are standards imposed on us. In this late stage capitalist environment, whatever we're creating is just a response to our environment. Like, one person cannot be responsible for the intimate life of anyone else. Not one person. I think an entire village has to be.
What political stance does my sex life take? What political stance does my love life take?
When you offer people a binary, it's for control. Intimacy is very particular in my mind, and this is a number that Western culture has done on me. Expressing my inner world and my inner sexual desires is like, but I am happy, you know? It's not like I'm unhappy, it's just like, I don't use language there. What do we want our legacy to be around intimacy, about, you know, having sex? The first step is always,
Hi, lovers. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Shan. I'm an ASEX certified sex educator, your host. My favorite quote, the key to happiness is managing expectations. So in this episode, where we're in conversation with Aida Mariam Davis around decolonizing sex, here's what you can expect. First and foremost, you're going to get a great conversation. Within the first 10 minutes, you're going to hear from me, a pop-in with an ad, plus a preview to next week. You'll also have other ads dispersed throughout. Those of you watching on YouTube, you will see some programmatic ads. Go ahead and skip them if they're bothering you. If you're watching, I hope that you enjoy all the effort we put into making this episode visually stunning. And if you do appreciate it, a huge thing you can do for us is to subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on so you know when episodes are coming out. For those of you listening, we put a lot of effort into the audio too. And as an extra little thank you at the end, I do a secret conversation just between you and I. So that again is only for audio listeners. And with that, let's get into the conversation with Aida. Aida Mariam Davis is an author and cultural strategist whose work explores Black world building, ancestral memory, and collective liberation. An Oakland native with Ethiopian roots, she is the niece of renowned activist Angela Davis, who also wrote the foreword for her debut book, Kindred Creation. Davis comes from a lineage of anti-colonial fighters who helped keep Ethiopia free from European colonization. She studied political science and African American studies at UC Berkeley and earned a master's in public policy from USC before founding Decolonized Design. Aida explores how reconnecting with African heritage can help communities build more liberated futures, and in this conversation, more liberated sex lives.
yep, I'm ready.
Let's go back to, what year were you married?
2019, August 2019.
We're 2018, okay.
Yes.
Let's go back to 2019, and you had a beautiful wedding to your incredible husband, and your husband's aunt happens to be a living legend.
The Angela Davis, yes.
And she reads a poem at your wedding.
Resignation by Nikki Giovanni. I love you because the earth turns around the sun, because the north wind blows north, sometimes because the Pope is Catholic and most rabbis Jewish, because the winters flow into springs and the air clears after a storm, because only my love for you, despite the charms of gravity, keeps me from falling off this earth. Into another dimension, I love you because it is the natural order of things. I love you like the habit I picked up in college of sleeping through lectures or saying I'm sorry, because you keep my feet warm, though my life is a mess. I love you because I don't want it any other way. I'm helpless in my love for you. It makes me so happy to hear you call my name. I'm amazed you can resist. Locking me in an echo chamber where your voice reverberates through the walls, sending me into spasmodic ecstasy. I love you because it's been so good for so long that if I didn't love you, I'd have to be born again. And my man picked this.
Really?
And he's not a poet per se, but it just felt so right in the very vivid descriptions of the everyday, the ordinary, the mundane. And that's in the most beautiful, magical way. That's how I would describe our relationship and the depths of our love. So
And
thank
the
you.
nod to destiny.
Yes. And the spirit really bringing us together. It's just, it has so many dimensions and so many triple, double entendres that I I feel lucky, that I can spend life with my man, my man, my man.
In the foreword of your book, which is such an incredible book, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. Angela Davis talks about reading that poem at your wedding and at first being like, oh, why was I chosen to do this? And then getting immersed in your work and realizing exactly why she
Yes.
was the perfect person and this was the perfect poem.
The way I have structured my life and how I try to lead my life is that there are always alternatives, that what I have been offered is not all that there is. I grew up in a very assimilationist environment. I needed to conform. I needed to, really submit to the world around me. And over time, I've realized, and in large part, actually, reading Angela Davis as a young child, that that's not how it has to be. That I can define myself for myself. And it's really the work of Toni Morrison, Nikki Giovanni, Angela Davis that helped me redefine myself for myself. And that opened my eyes to the fact that everything is designed to be this way. This is not serendipity or, a coincidence. This is by design. With that knowledge, I also created and used design to create a wedding that represented our values. So our wedding had all Black vendors. We got married in the first site of Black union organizers in the nation at the 16th Street train station. So the sleeping porters had their first organizing meeting in the actual building we got married. And to every detail, I tried to redesign a space that embraced our guests, embraced our family, and of course embraced us. But, in the Ethiopian culture, and she mentions this, we are bringing together families. We are healing lineages. We are really, my family's Ethiopian, they're from Alabama, bridging the gap that enslavement created between America and Africa. And that poem helped facilitate that. I think the built environment reinforced that. And of course, our guests, they showed up and showed out. So I think she probably remembers that moment, that day, as one that, all of us in our sacred personhood could be celebrated, that it was about us, but it really was about our community coming together.
Mm-hmm. In our Western world, you don't really get to define yourself for yourself because we need these set definitions because so much of our society is based on structure and predictability.
Yes.
And even down to the fact that a major discrepancy in our political climate is bathrooms.
Yep.
Because we're like, no. You have to be this because I need you to go to that bathroom.
We love to police, don't we?
We really do, right? And a big part of that, really does come from the scientific revolution. And I say this with like a little bit of heaviness because I've based so much of my work around evidence-based findings and evidence-based facts. But the truth of the matter is that whole system says that there's one good way at a time. Mm-hmm. You can disprove a theory if you want to, but you're going to have to use scientific rigor, the specific scientific formula in order to do that.
I have thoughts, honey.
Tell me.
Yes, I think that, what we're talking about is epistemologies, which is how do we know what we know? And in African and many indigenous epistemologies, we can know things in a lot of ways, through our bodies, through the ancestors, through tacit knowledge, right? Through a lot of different ways. And there can be many truths. Many things can be possible at the same time. But colonization, capitalism, the Western world, there has to be an authority. There has to be, isolation and insecurity in the sense that you need to always be fighting for your place. It's not enough that you just exist. And in African and indigenous epistemologies, we, have known things for millennia. The fact that we pour liquor out when the homies pass, that's a West African libation ceremony. The fact that we have framed photos of ancestors on a table, those are altars that have come, through millennia. We've been doing this. But I start my book actually with the parable of the tree. And it's this story I created about how trees provide us shade, sustenance, and song and story. Like they provide so much to our natural world. And for millennia, indigenous people have known that trees communicate. They're sentient beings. Just because they don't have the same faculties, human faculties, as us, does not make them less, like relatives. It wasn't until very recently Western scientists could prove, in fact, they discovered, that's like my favorite part, they discovered that trees communicate. but they had completely disregarded the long wisdom of particularly Native Americans in this country, but people around the world who have known this. And it's been disregarded as, folklore, myth. And, to me, this is our time to go back and return to our ways of knowing and really think about, like, what do we know in our bodies? What do we know in our spirit?
I think it's a beautiful thing to say, too, because I've also been examining this of just the overemphasis now on statistics. Like, there's an expert that I like right now who's just like, I only have facts over feelings debate. I only talk about facts. But we have to acknowledge that a fact essentially is a culmination from a particular chosen group.
That's right.
And so you're going to disregard your own feelings, your own lived truth to adopt another group's truth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because when I was pregnant, I hated that my mom would often talk about what we as Dominican or Etienne women do. And I was like, Mom, statistically, 1 in 5 women. Like, Mom, stop saying this, stop putting this pressure on me, because like that is not the truth. Like,
right.
The truth is these larger studies, like this is actually what is going to be my reality, versus listening to my mom who was collecting our reality.
Yes.
And making a statistic based on our lived experience. But just again, based on the way that I've taught to value truth or value knowledge, it's like lived experience or feelings is secondary.
Yep.
It's about what the statistic says. And the truth of the matter is, like, less than 25% of theories, which are like, proven studies, are actually replicatable.
For sure.
Because there are so much nuances to the context of it, to the individuals chosen. So.
I do want to quickly tap into what your mom said about that embodied knowledge, which is, it can also be interpreted as, our women are life-giving people. And so, or, our birthing people are life-giving people. And that's the kind of people we come from. And I think those are the really valuable lessons our parents and ancestors give us. I also think we can release the assimilationist orientation that also comes with that. Be like dominant culture. Don't be disruptive. Don't, do anything out of the norm, because you're going to create discomfort for people in power, for men, for whomever, right?
It's interesting because in many ways, our culture tells us that design is not possible.
Yeah.
You can't define your relationship. It has to look like this. You can't define your gender. It must look like this or that. But this whole place is design. The word design is such a better, more accurate word than this is democracy or structure, right? Because that just says validity. This says superiority. This said we thought about everything and this is the best possible way.
Yeah.
Whereas design speaks to taste. Which leads me to the question that you posed to me. Is our bad sex life by design?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you offer people a binary, it's for control. It's for a mechanism to create an outsider group, an insider group.
Which kind of begs the question, though, for me of like, all right, if we want people to consume here, like that's what the main goal is, right? People who have means consume.
Yeah.
Maybe people who are happy even consume. So why would it be by design that all of us feel like we kind of suck in our own bodies? And that's the omnipresent thing, right? So sorry for the interruption. Thank you so much for staying with us. And we would love for you to come back for this episode of Lovers next week.
Love isn't enough. It's been 23 years of ups, downs. Even while we were building Quest, that was a company that's grown at 57,000%.
57,000%. My brain couldn't even process what that was.
I was shipping bars from my living room floor, and within 5 years, the company was worth $1 billion. That's what 57,000% looks like. I told my husband I wanted to get married, have 4 kids, and have a big Greek family. For 8 years, I was a stay-at-home wife and realized I was miserable. I have to tell my husband, but I don't know how he's going to react. He has a right to be like, but you're changing the contract. You told me you wanted 4 children. If I had known this, I wouldn't have married you.
Was the plan to just start from scratch? Like, what was the plan in your mind? Sorry for the interruption, but I want to talk to you about my butt and about the sponsor of this episode, Tonal, and those two things are linked. Now look, I've talked about B-cup booties ad nausea before, which essentially means the kind of butt that doesn't stop a crowd, but you might get a little, okay sis, from another B-cup booty individual. Now maybe we weren't blessed with biology, but we can build it. over time with lots of heavy weights, consistency, and diverse workouts to target micro plus macro muscles in the area. And that's what I've been doing with my tonal. I'm gonna walk you guys through what I do. Start with the homepage, congratulating ourselves, okay? 500,000 pounds, 13 weeks straight, 113 workouts. Now you can go up to 250 pounds. Tonal gives you the convenience of a complete gym at your home, plus the guidance of a personal trainer. So we're gonna select our workout, and then we're gonna go ahead 157 pounds. Do you believe in me? Let's give it a shot. Now I wanna tell you about Tonal's financing, because this is definitely an expensive machine, but you can get it for $0 down and 0% APR, so you pay for it just like a gym membership. And here's the best part. You can get $200 off by using promo code LOVERS. So go to tonal.com, use promo code LOVERS, get $200 off. From the design as it stands right now, is you're not sexual at all until 18.
Yeah.
If you betray that, then you've done something wrong. So off the bat, young people from early as age 5 even are being told, don't touch your body, don't look at your body, don't acknowledge your body. It's impure to do so. So you're already starting off on the wrong foot of knowing that, like, I must be disconnected from myself in order to be doing childhood correctly. Then you get to 18 to 25 or so, and your main objective is to try to abstain anybody who wants you for sexual reasons, look for something serious. Once you lock that serious thing down, porn star.
Yeah.
Floodgates are open. You're supposed to be having lots of sex all the time without any education or really any scaffolding or teachings, but you're supposed to just figure it out. And if you're having problems, you can go to therapy or you can go to counseling, but you don't talk about it with anybody else. This is a private matter between private individuals. It stays within the home. Null and void of the fact that we learn everything else through community and through group teachings. This is one area that you must completely take care of by yourself. And if you're not mastering it, you're a failure. Then you have a kid. And all of a sudden, okay, well, you can have sex sometimes, but please don't make yourself appear as a sexual person. We're finished with you in that regard in society. You're now a mother. We have a completely different light we want to see you in. And this erosion of sexual self, almost back to your childlike self when you're in your older age, starts at that point on, to the point that we don't even want to think about grandma having a vulva. And that's the design, right? So if we can look at that and say, that's not a good design, what's the answer to why would they make that?
Well, it seems puritanical. Like, it seems like its origins followed the original pilgrims or the settlers, right? So let me start there. I don't think we take the design that we've been offered and been like, okay, how can we make this better? That's my perspective. I'm very disruptive in that way. I'm not interested in, for lack of better metaphor, more humane slavery. The master's tools will not dismantle the master's house. The very premise of the idea of me fixing his house is one I reject. How many 40-year-olds do you know who either are choosing sovereignty, are choosing different forms of sexuality, and they're being, for lack of a better word, shit on? Like, crazy. And I'm like, this is very valid and very rational. And very, like, I don't know, like, this seems like the most natural next step. And we, by design, patriarchy, men, egos snapped in, and we're like, we can't have women being self-possessed, being sovereign, not seeking our attention, not seeking our money, not seeking us. I really tether a lot of the way I lead my life to African and indigenous and ancestral teachings. And so Bonfu Some wrote The Spirit of Intimacy, this beautiful book about the Dagara tribe, which is in Burkina Faso, but like is really applicable across the continent, and talks about intimacy as something that is supported by the village. I just came back from Ethiopia, and every man and boy hold hands. It's like not just routine, it's a embraced cultural form of intimacy. I mean, we've talked about the dap. It is an embraced form of Black men holding each other, having a choreographed ritual, and expressing love and care for them. One person cannot be responsible for the intimate life of anyone else. Not one person. I think an entire village has to be. So whether you're getting that from your friends, you're getting that from, in Ethiopian culture, we have something called Ider, which is basically a banking community where if something goes wrong, we will give you all the money we've saved, but we work together every week to like watch kids eat. It's almost like a commune of sorts, but wherever you're getting support, you can then realize what you want out of your intimate and sexual life.
You know, capitalism thrives
Yeah.
when communities shrink.
Yes.
And capitalism thrives when it tells you that I can replace everything a community would once give to you.
Yes.
All in general, whenever you're starting to kind of think about, again, the linear way that things are, if it can relate back to you having to spend money to fix the problem that the system created, what
when you
better
say it
design?
like that, yeah, it's mutually reinforcing. It's like chicken and egg constantly. Systems of oppression have you gaslit. They really have you believing you're not who you are. So it would be like me going to like white supremacy and being like, do you see me? I'm black. And they'd be like, yeah, I mean, we're colorblind. Yeah, everybody's the same here. And so, you know.
Yeah, everyone's a dollar sign. What do you mean? I don't see color.
It's green. Yeah. Ultimately, I think the work of design should be returning to your original self, taking the fragmented parts of yourself that, you know, life can break and bringing them back together. And, you know, I think it's called kintsugi, the Japanese practice of taking broken porcelain or, you know, like a vase, for instance, and using gold to bring it back together, if it, you know, in this beautiful art piece. And I think that's our work. Like we're taking gold and we're making it the adhesive to bring the broken parts back together. And something I always say. Or quilting. You know, I love a quilt. Taking the discarded and building something beautiful that gives you warmth, that gives you care, and that you can give for generations. Like, yes.
And that quilt not necessarily being a map, but an inspiration for someone else to form their own.
To make their own. Yes.
I think the stages of design is, first, this is how it has to be, right? So we all do, okay, well, I have to like this couch, like this here. I have to have this kind of house. Like, this is how it has to be.
Yeah, we all like neutrals.
And then some people go through of, this is what it's not going to fucking be, where it's the rebellion phase. Like, for example, when your parents design your room for you and you're like, fuck this room. And then you start putting up all kinds of posters and crazy shit and painting your room black. And not necessarily because you totally love it, just because it's so opposite from what you felt it had to be. And so then the final stage, I think, beyond that is, this is what I genuinely like and want it to be.
Yeah.
And I'm reflecting on that to say, because I know the story of when you and Reggie first got together and his self-possession of maybe being in that phase of like, this is what I want it to be. Yeah. This is what it can be. And you were in the phase of, this is what it's not going to fucking be.
Yes. And he really took me to the next phase, while not doing what I think traditional relationships do, which is like, there were no ultimatums, there were no demands, it's like, okay, whenever, you know, I mean, I ghosted him for 6 months because I was playing games, okay? I was in my game bag. And he was like, okay, so whenever you're ready to go bowling, like you said you were, I'm ready to, you know, he's very competitive. I'm ready to beat you. So when I think about my husband, he is very self-possessed. From a very young age, all of his relatives called him the little philosopher. Like, he was a quiet, patient, deeply kind kid. And I say that with like surprise because I just don't know people like that. And he lets life come to him, including me. I mean, I definitely was like, what's up? And that very clear self-possession allowed us to, I mean, I was coming from a very difficult place when I met him. I felt like we really were able to let our masks come off and let our guards down and really connect in more meaningful ways than I ever had with other people. We also were able to connect our families in meaningful ways. There's a defining moment in our relationship where we went to this family cabin. It's 20 acres of land with like 2 very, very small structures. And that's important because like there's no one there but like deer and whatever is the natural wildlife. And I just remember being like, wow, this is the most beautiful place I've ever been. And I don't have any expectations on myself. Like, we were just there looking outside, journaling. Like, I did not feel like that was an environment where, you know, I needed to perform for him. I could totally be free. And I remember being like, wow, this will be the one. Like, I locked in that moment. I don't know if he was there, but I was like, he brought me to this beautiful place. He created a kind of intimacy that was not physical for a very long time. And then when we finally were, it was like just a very tender, like very much meeting me where I was, where I needed to be in that phase in life. And then I remember we came down the hill and met his aunt. And she was like, how was the property? Like, did you enjoy, being up in the mountains? And I was like, wow, yeah, it was amazing. The hot tub was my favorite. And, I'm expressing to her how beautiful it is. And she was like, what do you mean you left your swimsuit there? And I was like, oh yeah, I just forgot it. She was like, but why were you wearing a swimsuit? There's literally nobody there. Why are you wearing clothes? And it occurred to me like, damn, this has done a number on my, like the fact that I still do these things, even if I don't have to, like they're so ingrained in my being.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely a paradigm shift coupled with that really powerful, intimate experience with my husband. I was like, I need to rethink everything. It also was a turning point for me of like, why I can be more free. I can do so many more things that I have mentally put up blocks. And I will say my context is in the Ethiopian, I hate to like generalize, but in the Ethiopian context, you are never allowed, especially as a woman, to date until you're 35. At that point, you should promptly be engaged or married. And then you need to have grandkids by 37, no later. Like openness about sex or talking about sex in any way. Like, I think when I asked my parents about sex, they said it was like magic. Like literally, they used the Amharic word for like magic. And I was like, so you mean just one day I'll meet someone, they'll touch my stomach and then I'll have twins or something? Like, how does it work? And they were like, and my dad is a professor. To be clear, this is not someone who doesn't teach for a living. Magic. That was what I got.
Yeah. Well, similarly, you are also extremely academically decorated, and you're still probably being like, I don't know, kids, magic.
I know magic! You know I'm talking to the kids.
Well, let's talk about the magic too, because from what you've told me, before that cabin, you didn't want to get married.
No.
Because you saw that as ownership from a man. You had all these specific ideas, and during your like formative years, as much as you still had this grounding of feminism, you still kind of fell into the 5, 6, 7, 8 of being a sexual being.
Yes.
Like where it's the man's pleasure, it's his needs. I have to like suppress my own in order to make sure that he feels that I'm very impressed with whatever he's doing. And when you got to Reggie, you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. So I don't think I want to do any of this.
Yep.
And he said,
I love you, girl. Like, he is just the type of person that like, help me understand where you're at, what you're thinking, and we're Gucci. Like, I think it's the philosopher. Like, thank the stars for his grandmother who really taught him a love of critical thinking. And, even at one point I was like, Reg, I'm going to be talking about our relationship. Like, what do you think about this on whatever? He was like, you should go, girl.
Are you talking about this?
This.
Oh.
Yeah. This right here where we're at. And he was like, do you? Like, obviously think it through, but like, you are a full person. Like he has when I wanted to start a company called Decolonize Design at a time where like, that was like poison in the water. People thought that was too radical. He was like, girl, if you don't go on, that's who you are. Go and stand in your truth. Like it's easy to feel you're most free with someone like that. At the same time, monogamy works really well for us. And for me, he makes me most inspired to keep our union together under immense stress and all the different things we've gone through, because I'm like, this is someone I need in my life forever. Like,
yes.
There is no version of me that I feel shame with around my husband. I feel like I can very easily, like if I'm, angry, not feeling it, uncomfortable, anything, I could just express it. And that while the answer isn't always what I want, there is that communication. We have very strong conflict resolution skills. And I think that increases the sexual desire and intimacy. If like, there's the trope of like fighting, makeup sex, right? Fighting and making up. And while that is not necessarily what we do every time, there is this, I know how this is going to end. We're going to be together. We're going to explore our sexual desires together. And I think where I'm struggling, even in expressing this to you, is that, and this is a number that Western culture has done on me, is that I feel like that's private. I could tell you any stat in this book, any, theory, concept, definition, argument, I can do that. But like expressing my inner world and my inner sexual desires is like, girl, where is that? It feels like a room in the house, to use your analogy of home, that I don't go in much. Might be haunted, but I am happy, It's not like I'm unhappy. It's just like I don't use language there. I go off vibes, and like I use language in all these other parts of my life, which I think is also by design. That is a by design situation.
Yeah, but you get to ask yourself those important questions of like, does that design suit my taste?
No,
because
I don't think it suits my personality.
It doesn't, but it could.
You know me. Yeah.
The reason why I say that is because I genuinely do. When you start to get to self-possession, and again, I think like I really want to resonate with what you said about the difference between like personal and self-created, even though like maybe they sound the same, but what we're trying to differentiate is this idea that we're all our own island.
Yes.
Like we work the best in connection with each other. So my best is also in consideration of the community's best.
Yes.
They're not separate things.
They're not.
So when I'm thinking about self-possession, I'm thinking about the self within the context of the people that I love, who love me, who I choose to share my life with.
Totally.
That's a part of design too.
Yeah.
Like I saw that recently with Ava DuVernay. She just had a hard launch of her boo, who was kept in secret for a long time.
Yes.
And so many people in the comments were just congratulating her on keeping her private life private.
Yeah.
That's not my design literally at all, as you can see. Like we're just a hop, skip, and a jump away from an OnlyFans.
Right.
Like that's where we're at. But I am like, oh, like that to me feels like a part of the oppressive design that I wanted to break free of.
Yes.
But for some other people, that feels like home.
It could feel safe. It can. Yeah. It could also be a place along the journey. And I think it's important to note, like, we're in an attention economy where in some ways, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I feel like I'm under surveillance, right? Like anything I say could, and you know this better than me, could be used against you. People will bring their negativity. In the Ethiopian culture, we call it Buddha, the evil eye. People bring bad energy and juju, and like that also is motivating my privacy or my like desire to keep that between us. But like, yeah, I guess in that way, I'm a little superstitious too, that there's maybe something to be protected, but I can easily see how that line goes right into oppression. Like they're sharing the line,
Well, because they decide what stories get amplified.
Yeah.
And if more people aren't telling your stories, then their story becomes the only story.
Yes.
Because everybody else is told to keep theirs quiet.
That's right.
The thing with freedom that's important to acknowledge is that as much as it feels great to honor yourself, to find yourself, to design life for yourself, there's a great cost that comes with that.
Loneliness. You will likely be without the same community you had.
Everybody who has ever, myself included, ever stood out from the norm and declared that has been greatly punished, has been criticized, and you
to make
also
an example of
to make
you.
an example of you. On the other side, though, of the bad eye and of that, though, is the people who silently say, "Oh my gosh, we do."
Yes, girl. Thank God. Yes.
I can't believe
you're liberating people too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's choosing to put myself through the discomfort of that, knowing that the other side actually to me is much more fulfilling without discounting the fact that it doesn't come without a heavy price.
Totally. But the cost, I mean, in the same way Harriet Tubman had, a gun to people's back when they wanted to turn back around, she was like, we will go to freedom. We don't need to have artillery, but like, there also is like once people can actually experience it, and sometimes that's takes some tugging or some orienting to an alternative, then they can really self-actualize. And sometimes they become more free than us, the people who brought them there. You know what I mean?
Yes. And on that note, I want to talk about design for everybody who's listening right now, because the process of this can feel overwhelming. And like, how and where do I start? Why should you start with your own culture first? And even for white people listening,
yes,
your Irish culture.
You have a culture. Yeah. You 100% have a culture. You have people who came before you. I think that when you start with your own heritage and celebrate it, you are operating off of a full cup. You can pour into other people very easily. You have pride. You have a sense of self. And the reason why I say that is I gave my book to my neighbor who is a Persian Jew. And in reading the first lines about the quilt, he was like, We have quilts. I have a quilt from 3 generations ago that my grandmother gave me, and it's so meaningful, and it has some of the same value. Like when you actually are operating from a place of understanding your own culture, you will naturally find connection. I will say though, in writing this book, it is a love letter to Black people, in particular Black women. And if other people get something from it, that brings me so much joy. My thing is get completely immersed in the culture. Do not wear it as a costume. If you think, you can be Black for the day and then switch it up and be other cultures or other identities, it's not going to work for you. Like, that's not who you are. You're not returning to your original self, which should be the ultimate goal.
Which also just makes me note on how much context matters too, because even again, and with looking into my own culture, it's like you're approaching it within your Western context and then being like, it doesn't work. There's a reason why when you go to a Jamaican restaurant, there is Jamaican flags, there is Jamaican decor, because that's the context in which this is meant to be experienced. So a part of, I think, not appropriating is not just taking something at face value, bringing it into your world, and then looking at it like a trinket. You need to go to the context. Because I think about that Japanese phrase, which I said I would memorize, which I don't know. Oh my gosh, you should grab my phone. I'm just going to
do your
act like it's 2026, guys, and we can actually do this, but this is a part of learning, is that you're not going to know these things offhand. Shuhari. So shu essentially means to master something. But you get to decide what it is that you choose to study and master. You don't have to accept that what you see is all there is. So if you don't resonate with the story and the design of Western society and that the sexual practices that are there, then why not start with your own? Dig a little bit down and say, even for me, like disregarding so much of my Caribbean culture in my way of defining myself sexually is actually interesting, because now that I actually am able to connect the dots, I see so much of how I am as exactly that to begin with. So I went this really long route to find my way back home. Because so much of Caribbean culture is about free up yourself, liberation, body autonomy, sexuality being something that's not just private. It's actually in the streets. You are dry humping and moving your waist and walking up in the streets from the time that you can walk or talk.
Literally.
It's a part of your embodied humanity. And even the connection I'm now making to my South Asian heritage and all the teachings of Tantra, of Shakti, like that I was like, well, I'm not a woo-woo person, I'm a scientific person, so I must disregard it. Now I'm finding my way back to plant medicine as a form of sexual release. I'm finding my way back to adorning my body. I don't ever really want to be totally naked. Like, my culture is to be decorated. Because this communicates to other people how I want to be seen and treated. This tells my story. And my story belongs in a sexual context. I'm not abandoning my story. Like, all these things for me, again, they come from that first part of Shu, right, of mastery. So you master it, you destroy it, and then you rebuild it anew to suit yourself. I want to talk about a word that you taught me, Sawubona.
Ooh, Yebu Sawubona.
Tell me.
Sawubona.
Teach me, tell me.
We should have started that way, which is a greeting when people first see each other to say, I see you. And then the response is, it is good to be seen. And really, so it's a Zulu, South African greeting that it almost, in saying it, you're bringing this person to life, because there's this deep acknowledgement. Not that they weren't living before, but that this interaction is holy, that there's something special here, acknowledging and tapping into the human desire to be seen. Like, we want to be seen. We want to be noticed. We want to be acknowledged in our humanity, sometimes messy, sometimes ornate and, decorated. But that is a human desire, and I think that crosses cultures. And when we can do that like a muscle, I think we live much richer lives. We have much stronger communities. I think something that you model very well is the ability to see someone, and that's not just through your gifts of journalism and interviewing, but also like, girl, I don't know how you saw me through the phone, but you were like, you got too many kids, I'm gonna come pick some up, or I'm gonna send you food, or, like, I see you, even if I see that, like, there's a lot there, and I'm going to offer myself. And that's just I think it's an immigrant, Black. I think it's for a lot of people, but if we can make that a muscle, we will transform all of our relationships. That's really, Sawubona will change the world. That's my That's my headline.
I mean, imagine that, because you're at line up to get your Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
And then the person says, "Hi, how are you doing? What would you like?" Like, that's our greeting, right?
Which the American way
says, don't tell me anything, repeat back exactly what I said, and I'm trying to get through this interaction as fast as possible.
Transaction.
Hi, how are you? I'm good. Okay, I'm good too. Now we can move on to whatever it is our needs are. Whereas if you went to Chick-fil-A and they were like, Sawubona, like, I see you.
Yes, girl.
You're not the 80,000th customer. Like, actually, I went to Legoland recently and I had a funny interaction with the guy who like took our tickets, right?
Yeah.
And then I walked off. Of course, the kids left a car door open.
Yep.
So I got a notification like, your door's left open. I'm like, cool, we got to walk back.
Yeah.
We walk back. I check in with the same guy because I'm like, oh, this is my guy.
You've seen me.
He does not remember me at all.
Bruh.
And I'm like,
but we're friends now.
So I wonder, like, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like, you're seeing so many families and faces and this and that. We're not taking that time to see people because we feel like it doesn't optimize us, which I think optimize is such an important word to put ... at the end, because we just use it as if it's a complete sentence.
Totally.
What the are you optimizing for?
What are you making more efficient?
Yeah.
What is it? Why are you rushing?
What are we trying to, we're optimizing for what? Like volume and speed. We're not optimizing for connection.
No.
For joy, for feeling seen, for pleasure.
And that's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people, they may not want to do that. I get it.
Yeah.
But for everybody else, you're welcome.
Yeah,
Come on.
I do. Okay, well, speaking of welcome, where do you want people to go and what are you excited about? What's lighting you up right now?
Yes. If you are so inclined, check out the text. It's found wherever you buy books, listen to books. The library has it, Audible, Kindred Creation, Parables and Paradigms for Freedom. I am also consulting through Decolonized Design, working with workplaces and really largely community organizations in the world to rethink what alternatives there are, and using belonging, dignity, justice as one. We've talked about dignity violations, just giving people new language to express how they are experiencing the workplace and how they want it to be better. And, you know, I've talked to you about why I don't like diversity, equity, inclusion. And the main reason is the center is white, dominant, heteronormative culture. Everybody is aspiring to be that. And DEI is saying, you know, if you're diverse in relationship to that, you are, you know, included in something that already exists. And for me, that irritated my spirit. Like, I'm not interested in being the diverse candidate. I'm not interested in being equal to capitalist white culture. I am not interested in being included in that environment. And so one option would have been like, work hard to try and make it more representative. That didn't sit right with me. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to say, what would it be if my entire humanity was honored? What would that look like? And for me, that was, I would experience belonging, that as I am welcome, and that nothing about me needs to change. It's also dignity, that no matter what I do, I am worthy. I'm a sacred human on this planet. Justice, that no matter what happens, we will address it and we will repair it. And then joy, I think, is every human's birthright, that we should experience joy in our lives. And so belonging, dignity, justice, and joy is completely different than DEI. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different paradigm. I was able to create that orientation because I felt the irritation in my spirit. I will say one of the most powerful books that got me there was Malcolm X's autobiography. Mm-hmm. Seeing someone who grew up the way he did by such an incredible mother who was deemed insane. They put her in a sane asylum because she wanted freedom. She wanted it so bad. They were like, there's no world where a Black woman has delusions of freedom like this. So we need to literally put her in a straitjacket. They put her away. Then he became a felon and did all these other things. And yet he always defined himself for himself. And I feel like that's how a movement was started, because he was so magnetic and he could define those things and design another world in America that wasn't here. One where Black people had dignity. One where Black people we weren't begging for our basic humanity. We were creating alternatives in the here and now. And he was the foundation for the Black Panther Party, where they created, free breakfast program and all these incredible programs. They designed it from nothing for their community.
I loved in your book where you talked about that epiphany that you had at 6 years old of looking at the reservations and realizing, oh, this is by design.
For sure. At a very young age, I felt like an outsider I grew up in a rural town to African parents who gave me the greatest gift of political consciousness at a young age. And I remember my dad driving in this old car with no air conditioning, 100 degrees, driving from one desert, the Mojave Desert, to, Cree Navajo Nation in Arizona, and clocking that, and my parents said this routinely, like at least once a week, we're on stolen land. This is Native American land. So when I arrived, I expected actually regalia. I expected what I had seen in books and TV, which is sort of a caricature of Native Americans. And then I saw everyday people living in the kind of poverty that I saw my relatives in Ethiopia living in. And it clicked, a sort of instant solidarity of like, you are being misrepresented. You're being relegated to the margins of society after keeping this planet and this country so, lush and beautiful. You have been put in this box that you do not belong in. And for me, there was that realization that I don't belong in this box. And my friends in kindergarten would tell me, you said you're Ethiopian, are your friends and family famine stricken, essentially? Do they have big bellies, was the exact phrase. And I was raised with immense pride. Like, we've never been colonized. You come from king and queens. Like, Western cultures beneath us. We've had civilizations for much longer than this country. And then that juxtaposition helped me realize, like, they being the dominant society is being fed one kind of reality. And there's no alternative. If you are not American, you are poor, you are other, you are less than.
Mom of three, absolute path maker, social disruptor, community organizer, light. I always make this joke, going to your birthday party felt like going to a 5-year-old's birthday party. I was like, why does any adult have this many friends? Did you invite the full class?
I'm screaming.
What class are you in? But that just speaks to the light that you are and how people just rally around you and just can't get enough. And I'm part of the crowd, girl.
Period. I love you so much.
Shout out to my real friend, Aida Mariam Davis, author of Kindred Creation, Parables and Paradigms for Freedom. Those in the lovers community already know we are huge on freedom as a foundational principle for why we connect or why we're here on this earth to begin with. So we can't uplift her work enough. And also, if you want to uplift it double, go and follow her on Instagram at Aida Mariam. Now, the producer of this podcast was so inspired by this conversation that they went ahead and created a resource for you. So if you had a lot of thought starters that were coming up and tacit knowledge that you didn't really quite know how to make sense of, this resource can really help you out. And we're really proud to share that with you. Speaking of things that we're proud to share, that's it. That's all I got for you. All you visual listeners, have a great day. We will see you next week. And for my audio listeners, let's get a little bit more intimate now. Yeah, there's some things I hope my parents don't listen to next. Sales and distribution of Lovers by Shan is by Lemonada Media. If you haven't subscribed to Lemonada Premium yet, now is the perfect time. You can listen to Lovers by Shan completely ad-free. Plus, you'll unlock exclusive content, such as extended episodes from your favorite guests. Just tap that subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or head to lemonadapremium.com to subscribe on any other app or listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership. That's lemonadapremium.com. Do not miss out.